Hi, Shalom, Ahlan Salan. It's a great pleasure and honor presenting the power of storytelling here at the Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week. Raise your hand if you had a passion for a cause that you've personally experienced and wished you had the tools to self express and deliver a clear message in trying to make an impact. I'm sure that many of you, this is the reason why you are here today at this conference. I basically try setting the mood for my storytelling presentation, having my environmental art in the background. While you'll be watching and seeing this firsthand, I'll be exploring the Tortoise Rehabilitation Center in the Burj El Arab. And overall, this will be during this time, will be my first time, hopefully, visiting from Israel at the United Arab Emirates with the purpose and goal to explore the Emirates and to develop eco sightseeing adventures on the focus on water sustainability. And I'm proud to say I'm working with this concept with this nonprofit called Gulf Red Med, NGO that's dedicated in developing regional cooperation in the entire Middle East. What am I going to tell you? What am I going to show you in the next 15 minutes? First things first, I'll be sharing my personal story with you. And right after that, we'll be analyzing my storytelling approach. Second of all, I'll be demonstrating in front of you here today and explain how each and one of us here today can become an effective leader, ambassador in promoting the sustainability and environmental cause using simply our own personal smartphones. I'll be concluding this session by asking you to join me on this mission, on this cause of promoting the Middle East water sustainability and stability. My story begins on a Tuesday early morning, 4 a.m., right before the sunrise, driving towards east, towards the Dead Sea. It's a 45-minute drive from Jerusalem. And as I was reaching towards the Dead Sea, all of a sudden you see the sun coming out, rising over the Moabi Jordanian mountains, splashing beautiful colors onto the Judean hilltops with beautiful colors of pink, oranges, and red. It was quite an experience seeing that. And as I arrive, walking down towards the shore, I see Jackie, our captain, waiting for me in this long 10-meter black Zodiac boat. And I went on this boat, realizing this is actually my first time to explore one of the saltiest bodies on Earth, actually considered one of the richest mineral bodies on Earth, and exploring it here for the first time. And I'm telling you, this experience, it was an eye-opening experience. I was just amazed seeing the sights like I'd never seen before. I could not stop taking photographs, and I realized why people actually call this place the eighth wonders of the world. So what is happening to the Dead Sea that needs my attention or the world's attention? So this is 5 months later. I've returned to the exact same point, going on this boat excursion for my second time. And going on the second time on this boat, it really hit me hard. I did not recognize one place we've been to. The entire landscape has dramatically changed. And I'll never forget, there was this beautiful salt formation, which at the time was completely under the water, and only the tip of it was peeking outside of the water. And here I am 5 months later, the entire formation is outside of the water. I was completely shocked, seeing and understanding for the first time how much the water level of this World Heritage Site has been receding, right now currently in the lowest in recorded history. Are you curious now, seeing like never seen before, the receding of the water level year after year, and the devastating impact this had on the entire landscape? Now that I have your attention, let's stop over here and let's go over this storytelling engagement before sharing my documentation and analyze what we just did at the moment. So do you remember how I began my presentation here today? Let me go backwards to analyze and opening up a PowerPoint presentation using key words, key points for us to memorize how we actually structure a storytelling presentation. I start off with a question, a basic question. Raise your hands if you had a passion for a cause. And by having this kind of act of raising your hands, asking a question, I immediately got the audience's attention. The question could be a rhetorical question, but if you're speaking live in front of an audience, is a great way to activate and interact with the audience. Okay, perhaps you can even call on one or two people, mentioning their personal names, have them speak or answer that specific question you actually gave. The second thing right after the question is having opening to the entire appearance in front of an audience. The opening is not necessarily relevant to the presentation itself. It's just a great way to engage your audience for them to listen to what you have to be saying next. My opening was saying, if you're watching this now, I'm actually exploring in the UAE, the Tortoise Rehabilitation Center. Opening is a key way to start a storytelling presentation. Number three, summarizing your session. After asking a question, after having a current anecdote, it's my time to summarize my entire session in just 3 sentences, which I've done here today. And by doing so, I'm implementing the structure of my session into your minds. You have what to be looking forward as I go on. And by doing so, I use many key words to apply to you specifically. If it's words like future leaders, ambassadors, and I finalize my entire session, my entire summarize by calling for an action for you guys to actually join me. So that was a great way to summarize what we're going to be talking about as we go on. Storytelling is about having a conversation with your audience. The audience is the focus, not yourself, not the speaker itself. And in this specifically case, in this conference, it's the environment and sustainability. That's the cause. That's the focus. And we have to be finding the ways to inspire others and learn how to engage our audience with the power of storytelling. Let's go back to the Dead Sea storytelling. I'll be using right now my documentation, my imagery to try to evoke emotion into my audience. This is a great way during storytelling using imagery. Definitely gets the point across in a much more visual kind of way. So this is the documentation we're talking about beforehand of showing the dramatic aspect of the Dead Sea year after year. This is a 1-minute video of showing with simple photography this time lapse of the Dead Sea in 3 years, year after year. This is like never seen before. This is the formation I was telling you about that came out of the water as I came to explore it. And the changes are so severe, it took me a while to pay attention to the background, to the mountains, to realize how this is the exact same point, this is the exact same location where I started to take these images. Okay, the receding water level we're talking about is estimated to 600 Olympic pools that are emptied every single day in the Dead Sea. We're talking about 750 million cubic meters of water that are evaporated every single year. That's most of Israel's drinking water per year. Enormous amount of water that's missing for the Dead Sea. Okay, and these simple photographs, this simple photography, time-lapse photography, some of these photos actually were taken with my personal smartphone. Okay, and simple smartphones that all of us here actually have. These images reach so far out. They reach all the way to the Israeli parliament. It went to news broadcast, news in Israel, abroad, and newspapers. It's just finding the right way to be capturing these images and making an impact with simple photography. So I was actually the first one to document and to explore the Dead Sea and its shores solely by boat in the past 4 years. I found my own personal way to capture the unsustainability of a World Heritage Site while capturing its devastating beauty and magic. I started promoting these eco boat excursions on the Dead Sea and creating my own hashtags for promotion for this fascinating experience to go viral through social media. Eventually, I was able to excite thousands of visitors, explorers, media outlets to join me on this personal adventure. And there I had the opportunity to share and to guide visitors myself and to share my personal dramatic time lapse emphasizing the cause. Once I realized I've contained a unique visual archive of this water treasure, the more I wanted to find ways to share it with the world. Let me show you now in 1 minute video how I engage in a virtual tour today, the most devastating and dramatic location of the Dead Sea shores. Here we are in the parking lot. In the parking lot of Mineral Beach. Beautiful resort. And this is why this place was closed off 5-6 years ago. A huge sinkhole appeared in the middle of the entire parking lot, swallowing everything in it. It's around 40 meters deep. It's pretty crazy out here. Being a war photographer for many years, it brings me back to those times. Come and virtually explore the dramatic environmental impact of sinkholes on the Dead Sea shores and its direct damage to the touristic spa resort, Mineral Beach. It was closed off and deserted back in 2015 when immense sinkholes began appearing in its parking lot. This is unbelievable. Come witness this dramatic location. So from that devastation area, the contrast to that story, from those sinkholes, guess what? We actually have Dead Sea salt treasures coming out from this area. Look what I have in my hand. This is a salt diamond that comes out from the sinkhole. These beautiful cubes that come out. This is hundreds of years old. These salt diamonds that come out from the Dead Sea, one of a kind place in the entire world. Have been coming out, and the fact it's coming out from the sinkholes just shows the other side of the story, which I'll be focusing on right now, which is basically the life coming out from the Dead Sea. So this is the second part of the story, is showing the positiveness of the Dead Sea with all the dramatic aspects happening over there. Let me put back now the presentation. I wanted to show you this live, and I wish you guys can actually hold this and for me to actually pass this around. But for now, This is the other side of the story. Up until now, we've been focusing on the drama, on the devastation, and that's again the salt diamonds we actually find in the sinkholes of the Dead Sea, which is again a geological phenomena, and that's basically part of the story. The life that emerges outside of the Dead Sea, and I'm proud to say this is literally the life. You'd think this body of water is completely dead. Well, actually, in the past 6 years, it's been learned that these beautiful salt formations are actually created by microorganisms inside the fresh waters, which are underneath the Dead Sea, creating these beautiful sleeves of salt. A lot to get into about these salt chimneys, but focusing on the life that comes out from the Dead Sea, it's amazing how far things can actually reach by talking positively on a cause that should be getting much more attention. And eventually, by discovering these kind of discoveries of the life emerging out the Dead Sea, this went viral throughout the entire world, all the way to National Geographic, getting a 2-page coverage about this kind of discoveries of showing the life emerging from this saltiest bodies on Earth. We had CNN VR coming with us, taking them to the most strategic locations of the Dead Sea to document and share to the world, and of course, taking them to this location of these salt chimneys. What we have here on the left, these are 6 GoPros put in one device. This is basically virtual reality. I learned basically from CNN the future of documentation and entertainment. That's a whole different workshop that I actually have today of developing advanced technologies for these kind of purposes. And the highest peak reaching is actually getting recognition from NASA. So it's amazing that doing the simple, small things, how far it can actually reach. And guess what? If you guys can read actually the subject line over here, a NASA collaboration on Mars and the Dead Sea. It's amazing that not only we're able to show this, the Dead Sea has significance to the entire world, this has significance to the intergalactic world, showing that even in a place you do not expect to find any life forms, even in this body of water, maybe the same thing could be happening in Mars, which is very similar to the Dead Sea landscape. Again, a whole new story to actually get into. This shows how fascinating it actually is by focusing on your story, on the positive impact and how far it could actually reach all the way. So let's stop over here and let's start analyzing the second part of the storytelling and try putting it into key points. Drama, the most, I think, important aspect or the highlight of a presentation has to include drama, a shocking element. If you look back, you could see how I use dramatic images to basically evoke emotion, right? I've inserted key numbers, stats during the short video of the time lapse, 600 Olympic pools, something you can actually memorize and to understand that better, and 750 million cubic water, which is a little hard to understand what that actually means. But when I actually mentioned about how this is most of Israel's drinking water, it makes more sense of understanding the quantities of water. But all this was done during that shocking video of time lapse, because I know that that is the most dramatic images I actually have of showing how much the water level is receding of the Dead Sea. And by doing that, I get the full attention of the audience, and the shocking element that I get from the audience, I get their attention now. And from that point, I made you guys care. By making your audience care, you want to know what's happening next. You want to know what can I do to actually make things better. You want to understand what is happening, why is this happening. It evokes for the next stage of talking about a solution. That's why a good storytelling has to include the drama angle, because that will basically bring you on to the next phase of talking about your cause and seeing how it can actually become effective in delivering your message in a more powerful kind of way. Setting an example, especially for storytelling for the sustainability cause, there's nothing like starting off as setting an example. I'm just a simple guy, and I showed basically using my personal smartphone, taking images. I was able to capture this unique scenery of the cause and imagery that can reach, policymakers, media outlets, and capturing images that self-express themselves by the transformation of yourself as an ambassador to the story through international correspondence and tour guiding. So that's part of actually setting an example, showing how it can actually be done by just taking simple photographs using your own personal smartphone and reaching the limits, the sky's the limit, by doing those simple things that can be done. The next thing I'd done was show and tell, as using live props, right? Showing you guys the Soul Diamond was a great way during a presentation to break the order of the presentation itself. It's amazing how you get people's attention once again when you actually bring out something for people to see, to actually feel and to hold it. Usually you would pass this around the audience can actually feel it, using their senses into it. So that's definitely a great technique during storytelling, any kind of prop whatsoever that would have to do with your presentation, something to feel, something to smell, anything you can actually be using your senses for that purpose. Number 8, focusing on the positive. This is 180 degrees from the devastation and drama and the hardness of the story. And this way is the best way to engage your audience for the sustainability cause, but in a positive and enlightening kind of way. People want to hear a happy ending to your story. They do not want to leave your presentation depressed. You have to give them hope at the end of that tunnel. And you could start by touching them emotionally, evoking that emotion, but you have to be ending your presentation in a positive kind of approach. By doing it in a positive kind of way, you are able to engage your audience and be motivated to take on to the next step. And this method has proven for me, reaching to the highest level of the scientific world, being recognized by NASA by doing this kind of approach. This is a summary of our 8 tips for storytelling focused on the sustainability and environmental cause. You're welcome to write these points down. This will give you the structure how to build a storytelling for these purposes in order to become effective and to get your audience's attention. And I'll conclude this session again with the number 8 of focusing on the positive, of presenting here a short video, which is 180 degrees from what we saw beforehand with the sinkholes and the devastation and the destruction, is showing the positive aspect of how I actually reach out and presenting the story of the Dead Sea. And with this story, I'm hoping to engage more people and to be inspired to take a lead into these causes. So let me share this video, how concluding this entire session, showing the life coming out from the Dead Sea, the life in the Dead Sea. I'm excited to invite you to join me in an exclusive virtual expedition of the Dead Sea. I am Noam Bedein, a photojournalist and environmental activist. Okay, here we are, guys. We will be kayaking to this spectacular shore, accessed solely by boat or kayak, and experience life that emerges out of the Dead Sea's salty, rich mineral waters. For the past 4 years, I've been exploring and documenting the dramatic changes taking place in the Dead Sea due to the rapidly receding water levels. Come join me on a virtual excursion where we will kayak through the salt chimney forest. Wow, what a magical journey! You guys gotta check this out! I'll be right now concluding my entire session here at the Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week with a call for an action. While be exploring and traveling for my first time to the UAE, I've taken upon myself a higher standard for a higher cause of promoting the most valuable asset of the entire Middle East, which is clean and drinkable water. I am hoping to excite others through eco-sightseeing adventures in both countries and become a bridge to other water treasures throughout the entire Middle East, which are in desperate need of restoration and maintenance. Among them, of course, is the Dead Sea, a World Heritage Site. If your cause or passion is for regional water sustainability, I would love to hear from you. This was a wonderful opportunity. Thank you so much.